Hi, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth with Scott Linville, the author of The Emerald Doorway and the series of Linda.
Yeah, there's more books that can come out. Thank you, Perry. I'm glad we're doing this of free will because I'm not doing this for money. I mean, I don't charge you money. You don't charge me money. We're not doing this for why most people do what they do on this earth. We're doing this because when people find these recordings of these journeys, they can be greatly uplifted and benefited by them. And ultimately, each individual, whether they know it or not on earth, has to put in the effort, show a little courage to recover who they are. They have to demonstrate that towards beings they don't even know exist yet, that aren't even on Earth and other realities that watch us, beings from other planets that watch us to see if we're ready and capable of holding on to a liberated consciousness and to freedom if it was provided to us. And most people would not keep it. They wouldn't hold on to it. They'd lose it in a day. If you gave someone enlightenment and took away all their subconscious fears, they would have no experience or wisdom about how to hold on to it. And they'd recreate the circumstances that put them into not knowing how they got to be on earth in the first place. The more advanced beings understand this. So they want to help people recover their ability to know things with certainty for themselves. It's the only way that any other individual can ever experience freedom as a being. And freedom doesn't mean going and playing and indulging whatever we want to do for our own selfish interests. That's temporary. Nobody keeps any of that. All the money and gold in the world, no one can keep or even use past a few trips around one planet on one sun. And then it's gone. So it's not about accumulation. It's not about fame and fortune because no one takes any of that with them. No Academy Awards go with anybody, no directors respected on earth, no physicians, no politicians, no kings, no queens. They don't take any of that with them. It all stays with the body when it stops functioning back on earth. Doesn't go anywhere else. So obviously, people are on earth for another reason than what they allow themselves to understand because they're terrified. People on earth are in deep programmed subconscious fear not to remember who they are or who they were, what they knew before they were born here. Some people give up so deeply that they just say, well, it's God's will, and I'm supposed to be here. This is the only time I ever live, and then I go to heaven. That's not practical because they wouldn't be experienced enough to go into such a reality and be contributive in a constructive way with other beings who live there. You can't have spoiled little kids running around in the higher worlds helping things out by throwing tantrums and creating things there that are destructive because number one, you can't bring any negative nature there anyway. So it's an illusion to think that we can, to think that we can command the omnipresent living hue, the one sound behind all creation, to do whatever we want it to do. It doesn't work like that. It is a co-creator with us, yes, but it is also an intelligent force that operates separately from what we do. We have to learn how to be in harmony and co-create with it properly to gain the benefits of being linked to that omnipresent wisdom that comes from the source behind all life. And so we have to be capable of receiving the gifts other races and beings can bring to this world. You can't just be given it because then people would simply use it and destroy things the way they are now with it. And they wouldn't be able to help themselves because they're being driven from subconscious fear. And that influences their conscious decisions in the wrong ways. And they make more mistakes and destroy more things. As long as people on earth are thinking in terms of accumulating wealth and power and fame and fortune for themselves, they are helping destroy their own reality. And they don't even realize they're doing it. We are meant to be trustworthy co-creators with the source behind all life and be proper custodians and caretakers of worlds and planets and suns and moons We're being trained to be able to, how do you put it, be a top administrator of entire galaxies. You have to be pretty together and pretty responsible in your freedom to attain such a position. And that's only of a physical universe. There are astral universes, and getting in positions of responsibility in the higher realities means that we have to know they exist and how to go to them and how to experience them. Or we don't know. We're in the dark. We've forgotten, we don't remember, or we're afraid, terrified to remember down deep. And that's the way most people are. So they cling on to a religion or a belief that gives them a promise of some eternity after they die. There's no guarantee of that. That when they die, they're going to go to some perfect heaven. They're never going to have to leave because no such place exists. Not in the lower dimensions of time and space. If they want to go to heaven, they have to go to wherever that is, being, I would say, impassioned, inspired to bring something to the table there, to co-create something beneficial for the sake of others there, not just themselves alone. They're included, but it has to be for a much bigger purpose than what people think about on Earth, which is, just out for themselves. The world wouldn't be polluted and have chemtrails being sprayed in the skies and a desperate act, really, or have people at odds with each other in different governments that can never really get along on this planet, or religions that would fight each other to the death to convince each other theirs is the righteous way and everybody else is wrong. That's been going on for millennia. It's not changed anything. The world has come to a point now where the same way of behaving that people did 5,000 years ago, disguised with camouflage of religion and politics as it is today, it hasn't changed. And those kinds of destructive energies with the development of rocketry to go off the planet, nuclear weapons, beam weapons that people don't even know are out in space already pointing at this world, would destroy the whole planet with the same kind of energy and the way people believe and function that they did thousands of years ago. It hasn't changed. So we're at a point where we cannot continue to be like this and survive as human beings on this world. If all the people on this world were killed tomorrow, there are so many human races and humanoid races out among the stars, it wouldn't put a dent in the universe itself. 7 billion people wiped out in an instant wouldn't change the great proliferation of life that's out beyond this world, wouldn't even dent it. The bodies would be gone. The ability to get it right would be gone, and people would be out of their bodies trying to figure out what to go do with themselves. And then guides have to come by and people and show them that they're dead and they're still alive, but their bodies are gone. And then they have to be encouraged to go on somewhere else. People will draw the kinds of guides to themselves when their body dies that they believe in and have dwelled on all their lives. And if it's fear of the devil and blaming somebody else for their problems, and if it's there's only one heaven and it's my religion, they're going to go to some very tiny, minuscule little conscious place beyond Earth that isn't permanent. And they're going to have to learn some very hard lessons about how big what they call God is and how it looks at all life on all these planets that they don't. And they think they're going to go play in some big heaven like that the way they are, bigoted and biased and prejudiced and full of hate and anger and jealousy and self-righteousness and all these negative things. They're going to just be drawn right to people like that somewhere else. It's basic law of the universe. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. It's reciprocal. What we put out must come back to us. If you put out something uplifting for the benefit of all life, that comes back to you too. That's where freedom comes into it. Because you can't get freedom in the multiverse. Freedom to be aware of what you are as an Atma or soul. Freedom to be in or out of bodies or to be free from incarnation and unconscious terror. Unless you can respect the greater God. It's just not possible to get it for free because someone's going to save you. It doesn't work like that in reality. If there are beings in the universe we could call saviors, they can only save other people when people co-create saving themselves. And that takes individual exercising and turning on and recalling memories, recalling and remembering their higher nature as beings, not bodies, beings. There's no shortcut for this. So it's as true for me as it is for any other being anywhere in creation. This is true now for the beings that are free in the sense of what people understand on Earth, who actually are living in the higher realities above what people call the void. They're not responsible for bodies on lower planets. We are, each one of us. If a person doesn't even know they're running more than just this physical body in higher heavens right now, not after they die, an astral body, causal, mental, and they're all learning how to be a co-creator with this source on many levels, then they're not working on all thrusters. They're not conscious about how to put that all together and become what we're meant to be, a co-creator with the source. They don't even know what the source is. They think it's some big being, some super god up there that's a dictator and tyrant and demands worship, or you get the pitchfork and go to hell. That's what they've been taught. That's what people believe. I'm not here to change their beliefs or challenge their beliefs. I don't care what they believe. All I do care about is that they have the opportunity to expand far deeper into the reality of truth than they were taught. And they have that right. There is no spiritual leader, head of a church or a faith or a guru anywhere that has any right to prevent a being from going further than they can teach them. If they do, they are evil. Anybody or anything that stands in the way of a being going further to fulfill their destiny to be a co-creator with the source is evil. Anything and everything. If people want to have right discrimination about what is good and what is evil, all they have to do is consider, is what they are doing benefiting them towards real freedom and direct experience and real knowing of their purpose, knowing the source behind all life, not believing in it, knowing it. Because if they're believing in something and they're not allowed to know it, it's just something they've learned from outside. And this is the same for politics or religions or ethnicity, races. They all have their own ideologies and ways of being brought up on this planet. But behind all of that is the spherical nature of our being as energy that is not nuclear. What people on Earth call soul is who and what we really are. And that's indestructible because it isn't nuclear or atomic in nature. You can't split an atom of the Atma and destroy it because it's not atoms. If people understood this simple energy understanding of the way the universe is and what they are as part of it, none of these problems you see on Earth would be here at all. Because they would be consciously connected into an energy that supports whole worlds, whole galaxies, whole dimensions. You think it doesn't know what to do to set people free from the illusion that they are a physical body that can perish in a few short years? It's not the source behind all life that creates these problems. It's beings who were entrusted to be caretakers of something they are not caretaking and have long forgotten that's their purpose. The lower dimensions, what we call time and space worlds, like Earth and the sun and the moon and the stars and the galaxies and all the dimensions, are made of nuclear material on different parallel dimensions of time rate. The molecules all vibrate the same in this parallel dimension. They vibrate a little slower here where we are on Earth, but they're all part of the creation. If we want freedom, we have to become aware of the multidimensional nature of that creation. There's no shortcut for that. If we're going to be trusted by the source behind all life to be co-creators with it and assume greater responsibility in eternity, then we have to be trustworthy. And to be trustworthy, we cannot be creating or have the impulse to create for purely selfish reasons, because that's negative, it's destructive. Anybody doing that, eventually they'll have the rug pulled out from under them violently in some cases, and they lose their body, their life. Whole masses of people, whole planets have lost their existence running bodies on different places in the universe in galactic alliance history. It's not new, the annihilation of all life on a planet. People do that to their own worlds because they're afraid to remember who they are. That's at the core of this whole thing. It's not complicated. It's so simple people can't see it. It's right in front of them. Fear is an artificially created emotional conscious state. It's a program, and it's subconscious in people on Earth. Fear, making decisions for the planet's well-being on fear, will make the wrong decision, and it becomes destructive. And then more money has to be thrown at trying to fix the repercussions for those misdirected actions. We cannot change a world like this and set it free, heal a planet, end pollution, and be experiencing much more advanced technology, genetic science, if we're not able to be responsible with it. People on Earth cannot be responsible with it the way they are. There are individual groups of people in places that want to do the right thing, and some of them are getting away from oil into more alternative energies because the universe is full of energy, and most of it's run not on oil at all in most worlds. So we can easily step into that paradigm, but we're going to have to get the assistance of fellow beings who have developed this kind of thing millions, hundreds of millions of years ago, even billions. The universe, the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy is many billions of years old. Earth is 4 billion, and that's a child in it. So there's billions of galaxies just in one parallel dimension of the physical universe. Quantum physics bears this out. They know. They don't understand what to do with it, but they understand it's there. The energy out in space, people used to call the void because they were ignorant and they didn't understand it, afraid of it more than anything else. What might be out there that could attack us and take over the Earth. I don't think people stop to get away from the negativity that surrounds them on this Earth long enough to realize that if some alien culture out there was capable of coming here and wiping us out or eating us for lunch, if there hadn't been other forces out there preventing it, that would already have taken place. It would have been done. Because we don't have any weapons or technology to defend against that kind of 100-million-year-old technology. You'd be damn be lucky that we're all grateful that they aren't bad guys, because if they were, we'd all be gone anyway, or slaves, or worse. So I try to make this point to people. I'm one Atma, one being, not from Earth. I didn't originate here. This is not my home planet. But I am concerned about fellow human beings who live here, because many of them didn't originate here. They came from other worlds. And through one set of unusual circumstances or another, in the last 500,000 years, they were caught, perverted, brainwashed, and stuck here in bodies with no memory. Everybody knows something's not right down here, that they don't remember a small fraction of what they should be. And their parents, when they're born, are in the same game. They teach them the same limited imagination, the same limited thinking. Gee, I wonder if there's life on other planets. Ooh, maybe in the future we'll develop spaceships and we'll go way out among the stars and we can plant an American flag or a Russian or Chinese flag on those planets. No. That's never going to take place, because space out there is already occupied by more advanced cultures. Humans on Earth are a blip amongst all the humans that live out in the universes. A small, tiny fraction of unconscious people on a planet that shifted its poles and wiped out all life here cyclically every 100,000 years. It's not a fair playing field, Earth. Until recently, these polar flips, in fact, until recently, if something hadn't changed out there, we'd all be dead now. The poles would have flipped and everybody would have been wiped out again. This whole idea of golden age to iron age and back again, that's just for Earth. Just for Earth. It has its own golden age to iron age and back again. It's not relative to what happens out in the universe. Grand ages of the galaxies take place. Grand ages of the galaxies that have taken place in the past are no longer relevant to this moment in eternity right now. As beings, we are in a unique position out among the other worlds and in the higher dimensions and on Earth to bring this planet and its people up to a recognized, harmonious, joining with other world systems in a great collaboration. In which case, if we do the right thing, we will be given the technology, the end of all disease, food production is not a problem. To do that, we have to become more evolved and courageous and really, truly spiritual people, loving people. We have to become able to give up things that right now people covet at the point of death. How much money they have or how much they can accumulate or who can get power for a short time in the United States or in other countries. Got to give up the idea of having money as a control tool to dominate other beings. Because those beings that are more advanced out there don't use it. It's illegal. You see the problem here, getting people on Earth to be able to give them all this stuff? We have to change. We have to embrace a larger God, a bigger universe, or we're going to go down in flames on this planet again. It's happened many times in 65 million years on this planet. It would not be the first time. There is a nuclear war has happened on this planet in the long distant past. Not in Lemuria, further back. Further back. What happened in Lemuria in the last cycle, and Atlantis, which is a colony of it, and was left as a volcanic island that became popular many tens of thousands of years later, because this destruction on this world took place 100,000 years ago. The place was colonized from other worlds. Mammals, animal life, plant life were brought here from many worlds as a grand experiment to see how they would thrive in a planet with a new atmosphere. And that's really all it is. Other beings were brought here under treaty, both what you would call tyrant and kind world systems that got established at the end of a great war 500,000 years ago. And people were brought here, some as slaves in small areas of Earth, mining colonies and things like that. And some were brought here to do more grand experiments with beings to see how better ways could be created to do things on a planet by experimenting with having beings voluntarily come here, and the good guys anyway, to see how species could be evolved for the better. It was not negative. It wasn't perverted, anything like that. So there's been a history of this world that people don't understand. On Earth, they aren't taught it growing up. They have no idea it existed. What I'm endeavoring to get across to people here is that their history, or human beings in this form, this developed form, have been around, coming here from other worlds for 65 million years, since the dinosaurs were made extinct. Where is the conscious awareness of that history that you and I and everybody else was involved in? Here and there, coming here in some life, going to another planet, living a life there, being in the Pleiades and being here, being back in Lemuria, being back in the Galactic Alliance 1,000,000 years ago. What it was called back then wasn't the Galactic Alliance. That started about 500,000 years ago. Now think about it. Races traveling the stars for 500,000 years. More than that. That's just in our local sector. What kind of races do we need to respect and embrace in order to be given their training, their technology, and to be invited in to be part of a greater world systems? What do we have to do? Because this is being presented to this planet of people. And fear is the only thing keeping it from happening. Fear in world leaders, fear in generals, fear in royalty, fear in the populace, fear they brought here from other worlds and other lives. They carried it with them right here. What happened to all the people that died on Maltec when it was blown up from the core outward, became an asteroid belt circling the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter? Where did they incarnate after they lost their bodies? This tendency to destroy a world on a massive conscious level. Where did it come from? Where did the people who died on Lemuria go? And Atlantis later as a volcanic island when it was destroyed through the misuse of science 35,000 years ago. Where did they go? Some, depending on their consciousness, went off to other worlds and rejoined where they came from. Others were drawn to keep reincarnating here to try to get it right. And that's before the misuse of technology to implant people subconsciously and control them in fear to keep them from remembering who they are. That's the misuse of technology that was developed for the good of beings and perverted by tyrants that got control of it a long time ago. So we're on Earth today. People are struggling to get it right. How do you get countries so at odds with each other, so competitive to go out in space and so you can get their flag in the first uranium mine out in the moons or out on the asteroid field, and who can get the wealth out of it, and who can first get there, and who's going to be the number one dog on the block? That kind of thinking cannot go out and play in the universe. And I'll try to make this clear for my little part in this, that we have to grow up as beings. We have to accept our responsibility that this is not the only life we've ever lived. This isn't even a small fraction of lives we've lived. And the real key to being on Earth or any world is to know what we are and have always been, that is not a physical genetic machine that we temporarily run like this one. Destroying this machine doesn't destroy me at all. It sets me free from having to be on this earth, in which case I can come back and do even greater work. But it's also irresponsible for me to run away like a coward and not remain here to see this through. Sure, there are beings I've loved and known in the universe in other lives that I would like to reunite with or be back with them, but that cannot be done until this place changes. You could not bring people here and stick people who are free in a perverted planet like Earth and expect good results from it. Impossible. There is change going on out in the multiverse that people on Earth have no idea is taking place. That's why the Sayre's Agenda was written as a book, because it's an interdimensional portal doorway. When people start looking into it and they imagine what is being on those pages, they're actually seeing and experiencing it themselves. They just don't know it. They're not conscious of it. My endeavors and those of those who I work with from other worlds and other realities, and they're master teachers. There are master teachers out there more ancient than life on Earth. Just because people on Earth don't know about it doesn't mean they aren't there. What good does it do someone like that to come by to a person on Earth who they don't even remember who they are, or what, they're not a body, and then try to dump all this enlightenment on a person like that? That person would distort whatever they were given from subconscious stuff they're addicted to in bad habit patterns, and the energy of life, the energy of the universe would run through their consciousness and destroy things, and they wouldn't even know they're doing it. So to have a transformation take place on this planet means practically that beings who are on it now and beings who work with them from other worlds have to raise the vibration significantly in a certain way that will neutralize much of the negative thought forms that's still in the atmosphere circulating around the planet since it began, bouncing off the ionosphere like a radio wave. You have to deal with that problem too. Or people are just vulnerable to pick up on who murdered somebody in Rome in the arena for sport. And they start acting it out here. It's not even in present time. So there's a lot involved with the creative imagination of an individual being that has to do with their purpose for existing. And that purpose is simple. It's so much more lofty than people on earth are taught. It isn't to worship blindly some supreme being they never meet. Oh, that's too far away. We can't comprehend it. It's so majestic. It knows everything. We don't know it. That is completely wrong. Because as individuals, we are comprised out of energy that is not nuclear, that is part of that. And it isn't destructible in a materialistic or nuclear, atomic, or DNA, or atoms, and protons, and neutrons, and all that. It is the energy that's finer, that's behind all that, that supports all that. That is the energy between planets and stars and moons and suns and galaxies and all the dimensions. And that's one energy. 0 point, toroidal, the energy of creation. It is a conscious energy. It is not an individual being like us. It is the omnipresent living force itself, and it emanates from a source, a center. It's a really real center, a place. People on Earth are terrified to know that exists because they would have to walk far away from the religious beliefs they have now, or at least incorporate that experiential truth into what they believe now and make it alive, vibrant, because then their faith becomes experiential. Direct knowing perception is the highest faculty an individual part of God, an Atma, an individual being, like a drop of pure energy out of a mighty ocean of it. It has the same characteristics built in that it does. The same powers of creation on a smaller scale. Collectively, as beings, we have created or had a hand in creating the problems that we see on this planet and out in the universe. And as part of that source, it is our responsibility to one day become co-creators with it and fix this problem. And we have to be individually involved in that process for it to become a reality. That's a big challenge, to get awareness of the multiverse into people who don't even know if there's life in other worlds. That's pretty sad that they could be so lost, so misdirected, subconsciously fearful, that they don't remember they came from other worlds, and they wonder if there's life out there. That's pretty twisted. That's pretty full of amnesia. That's pretty unconscious. To look from a body with physical eyes out in space through a telescope and say, I wonder if there's life out there. How ignorant is that if they came from out there and they don't remember it? Because they did. Human beings did not evolve on this planet, ever. Human beings did not originally evolve out of the primordial amoebas from the ocean here. Dinosaurs became birds, and somehow a fish came on land and became a human being. No. No. Those life forms were originally developed in other worlds and brought to this planet as an experiment long ago. Dinosaurs evolved so big, they would have eaten themselves to death. The brontosaurus, they would have eaten all the foliage on Earth. They would have died anyway. They were too big and destructive. So that experiment was put to an end. But it didn't originate on this planet. And then other life was brought here, human life, on ships. Long ago, people are thinking, how do we develop spaceships? There were spaceships coming here from vast star distances away 65 million years ago. How arrogant people are, I should say misdirected, to believe we're the center of God's creation. They want to call it that. And we're the elite on this little planet, as if that majestic creation could be focused down to one little world. I mean, it's like, talk about trying to limit eternity down to a planet. It's backwards. It's completely backwards. If we want to play among the stars and run bodies and be free, not to be trapped in bodies, then we have to be able to respect those beings that are like that now, far more advanced. We're going to have to do it. And we're in years right now where this is critical, where we need to make this leap. We're not going to be able to do it on this planet by ourselves. There's not awake enough people in any political system on this government in this world or religion that's awake enough to save this planet from being self-destructive by ourselves. The universe isn't set up that way. We're meant to be able to take responsibility for our part co-creatively in this majestic creation with the help of others who have already done it. That's not going to make them our Lord and Masters. They're not care about that. People on earth are the ones that care about that, being Lord and Masters over others. The more advanced races gave that up a long time ago. You're not going to go out in space and try to throw vomit this nonsense up on all of them, because they aren't going to accept it. I want to make this clear, because if I don't, certain people will hear these recordings that we do for their benefit, because my work is not about toppling governments. It's not about toppling religions. It's not about pitting one person against another. It's about helping people remember that they did not originate on this planet. If people on Earth, Perry, right now knew they did not originate on this planet and they aren't a physical body, how different would this world be right now? It's a big job. It's going to take several trillion beings from other worlds and other realities to fix this backward place. We're not alone in the universe, and the sooner people on Earth and world leaders begin to accept trusting themselves to make decisions not based on fear of the future like they are now, but based on an understanding of a greater quantum field, that the one energy out there is not nuclear or atomic in nature. It is energy. And this dark matter out there, this blackness between worlds and galaxies, that is so much more vast than anything that floats in it, that is the energy people need to understand if they want to be free to play among the stars, go to other galaxies, go to other dimensions, in or out of bodies or in ships. If they want that freedom, then we have to be able to respect and come to become aware of the types of beings and things that are out there. We have to embrace a much bigger source behind all life, a much bigger prime creator, because they've done it. They don't have faith about this source. They don't live in faith about how this, what we people on Earth call divine spirit, works. They know how to work with it. It is a co-creator with us, this one energy, and we're meant to imagine right things in it the right way for the good of all life, and then it works with us in tremendous ways. It is a living energy. We're not meant to worship it. We're meant to respect it. There is a difference. The source behind all life does not put out an energy field that demands worship, but it does insist that we respect it and each other. That's it. As simple as that is what we're required to do to take our place among the stars in the physical universe. Well, we should go on a journey, because when I go on these journeys, it's telepathic. What do I mean by that? I explain it every time, because every time people hear it, for the few who cross paths with these videos, they get it right away. They know, they remember it. They say, "Oh, that sounds so familiar to me," but they don't really understand it yet. It's just starting to come to the surface in them. They're beginning to recall and remember what they were made to forget. This work is designed to stimulate that. And it's not just my work. There are many beings I work with involved in this process. Ambassador Torellian of the Say Rays is involved in this book. He's not from Earth. I first introduce the existence of the Say Rays, Ambassador Torellian, how they work with the source behind all life, as the most advanced humanoid race or human race out there, billions of years old, that first introduced himself to the Galactic Alliance Council. That's a core group of administrators near the core of this galaxy on a world much different than Earth. That 5,000 members represent about almost 450 to 500 million spacefaring races in numbers of parallel dimensions in the physical universe, not just the one people see through astronomical instruments and radio telescopes. It's on higher parallel molecular frequencies of matter. There are doorways between these. And people that are more advanced have figured out how to detect them and go through them. They're already in the universe. They're part of its structure. So the doorways between these higher realities, way above the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth, up into the higher realities, and the planets out in space, there are doorways built into the universe to get around. Spacefaring races didn't build those doorways. They're never going to find that, looking at it that way. There are beings who actually maintain 24/7. They are the mechanics of creation. They maintain the levels of dimensionality, planets and suns and moons and stars, so that beings like us can run bodies to gain greater experience and come up with new ways of helping to move the creation along. The source behind all life does not know where we can take this creation. It only knows what it is right now. And it knows what it is right now from all of us connected to it on every planet in every reality. Because what we are that isn't physical has always been connected to it. It's telepathic. What do I mean by that? It means that there is a sacred, I don't want to use that word, that's religious. There is a primary energy, a first sound, a first word behind all creation that scientists on Earth are beginning to understand. They call it zero-point or toroidal energy. That energy does not work by the laws of physics as Einstein put it out there. That's for physical nuclear material. The energy out there they're detecting, they know is packed full of energy now and is not just an empty void. This dark matter, they used to call it, is powerful energy, but it isn't nuclear in nature. It's an energy that is behind and supporting all the things that float in it, like galaxies and planets and moons and suns and other dimensions, all set up in a structure. There are spacefaring races out beyond Earth. Many know about this, some do not, that are kind races, very advanced technically. There are races who specialize out there that travel among the stars, that travel between galaxies, who are even more advanced. And they don't share that technology with younger spacefaring races until they're ready to be responsible with it. And this is how it works. When we go into the human body on Earth, despite how certain genomes were shut down to make it difficult for a being to run their higher faculties of direct knowing through it, which is the case of people on Earth for the most part. Beings on Earth, meaning the Atmas, are running bodies and putting them to sleep at night and going out of their bodies and going into the multiverse and returning often with little or no memory of what they did all night while the body was asleep. Because it's a complex process. To turn off a body and keep it breathing is a function of higher being. It's what each of us do. Conscious beings do it consciously. Unconscious beings are running it unconsciously on automatic, and they don't know how they're doing it. The technical process is they send a little beam, this is the being, spherical, not the body, into the pineal gland from outside it, from beyond time and space. Because atmas are not made of time and space, so they can be floating around in time and space and not be part of it. They're part of the energy that supports it all. And they send a little beam into the pineal gland, affects the rods and cones, certain tuned frequency, little attenuators. And they cause the body to begin to run and breathe and blood circulate and heartbeat on automatic. So it can go into the trance state, the more advanced races call sleep. On Earth, people do it unconsciously for the most part, not all. And then they go out, everybody on Earth, but they're taking with them as an atma all the perversions, good and bad, they ever did in billions of lives. Leaves that body because they don't know how to shut that off. If you know how to shut it off before you leave the body, then it stays turned off, like turning off a computer, the subconscious negative influences. And then they can go out and play in the universe, have experiences and bring it back to that body, download the memory of that journey, and they begin to become spiritual travelers. They begin to become who they're meant to be. They begin to remember how long ago it was they started descending into the lower worlds of time and space to begin to run bodies to gain experience and discover new ways of doing things. Their job is to bring it back to that source and share it. Because the source then gathers all that and can come up with new ways of doing things that actually are better for all life than they are now. That's our job. How can we do our job if we don't remember it? We've long been made to forget who we are and can't return. This is the problem. That's on a grand level. Let's take it right down to the physical universe. Planets and moons and suns and spaceships. People in bodies that eat and poop and pee and do all this stuff on different planets. And then there are human bodies of higher genetic nature that don't do that in the physical universe, that have evolved their genetic science to where they can draw energy directly from the one energy the atma draws it from and run it through the body. Such beings exist out there that travel the stars. They're not dependent upon food to live. Earth people have no idea such things exist out there. But if they're going to play among the stars, they're going to have to embrace it. They're going to have to respect it. They're going to have to become aware of it sooner or later, right? There are more things in heaven, let's just say, out beyond Earth than people can imagine. Each individual on Earth, properly set free from subconscious influences, has the ability to know these things with confidence. They have the ability to understand it. They have the ability to go to that source and return to it and comprehend the nature of Prime Creator, the source itself behind all life, because they're made of the same energy out of it, exactly the same, individualizing. That's what we call soul on Earth. More advanced races call it the Atma, the atom of the source, which means an individual, spherical being. Planets and moons and suns and stars are round because they're patterned after their creators, by the way. They aren't patterned after bodies with heads and 2 arms and legs floating around in space. They're not like pyramids or squares. They're round. And what people on Earth don't understand is before they were made to forget everything, they understood this once long ago. And they can recover that. They may not believe it. Their faith or their belief may terrorize them about it. Or they'll believe if I get out of my body, a demon will get me. That's just plain nuts. Because the Atma isn't nuclear. It's not something negative things can get. You have to be in negative bodies. Bodies can be destroyed with each other, but not the Atmas, the real us. So they're indestructible. When a person begins to remember they're indestructible, the real knowing certainty of their being begins to return to them, even right here on earth. Then you can communicate with beings from elsewhere and be respectful of yourself and then and walk amongst them. We can't take our twisted, limited understanding of the grand universe from earth and our religions on this planet and throw that up on other people and say, you got to believe our way or we're going to attack you. We couldn't attack them anyway, and they wouldn't allow us to harm ourselves in that process. So our solar system is quarantined, the one we live on this planet, by beings who are not from Earth, because we're dangerous here, destructive, petty, selfish, driven by all the wrong things. And I don't blame people on Earth for that. They were grown up in that culture. How else can they believe until something is introduced to them that changes that? They won't change. I want to get that out because if truth is spoken, and it's a transmission, it's a telepathic thing, meaning I'm sending out this pure golden white light we call the hue, first half of the word human, the first sound behind creation, the toroidal 0-point energy, same thing. Call it whatever you want. Divine spirit. Call it that if you want. But its purpose is to co-create what we imagine. Our job is to imagine for the well-being of all life, not just life on Earth or one country or one neighbor or one belief system. All of it. The more advanced races outside of Earth think this way, grow up this way. If we want to join them, we have to remember who we are, because the fact is, everybody on Earth that's running a human body now unconsciously in fear came from there originally. I'm not talking about the bodies, but even the bodies were imported here. The genetics we call human on Earth have certain genomes out of the billion genomes on the DNA shut off. They're switches. Right frequencies can turn them off and on. And if some of them are shut down and you get pushed into a body with no memory and you try to get out of your body and remember how to go to the other planes, you can't access it. You get stuck. A body becomes a trap for the Atma that's fixated on it, fearfully misdirected subconscious to believe that it is a physical machine that runs at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Twin-stranded DNA machine. Those were developed over billions of years to be this form. Humans are not new. They're ancient. And they didn't originate on Earth. No race represented on this planet originated here. They did originate in other star systems on planets. All the races you have represented here have slight characteristic difference in their genome code from the environments and gravity and suns and systems they lived on. Then they were brought here and thrown together in a mix with no memory. Tyrants were involved in some of that, but beings themselves in ancient history created their unconscious state. If you blow up a planet full of people somewhere in another life, you don't want to remember that because you feel guilty. You feel out of your own lack of experience. A being will occlude that memory, shut it off. They don't want to even face it anymore. And when they do that, they're blocking all the use of their higher faculties. And then pretty soon it becomes a dwindling spiral until more mistakes are made and more, until now you can't even remember how you got to be where you are. That's what happened to all of us. It is reversible. There are beings that can help people on Earth do this. They have the enlightenment and the technology to do it. Both are required. You have to have the enlightenment as a being to know how to run technology that can do this, or you cannot figure out how to run such technology or invent it. Because the higher technologies work with the toroidal energy in the universe. If you want to get beyond the speed of light, for quantum physicists, they got to start thinking outside of the brainwashing they got in limited school systems on this planet. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. That's not a limitation. That's just a statement about observable energy. The energy that physical eyes on Earth can see travels at 286,000 miles per second, but it is not a limit of the speed of light. It's a limit they've artificially put on it in limiting their consciousness to that concept. And yet something always tugs at everybody on Earth that science says that's not quite right. How do people get across the stars? It takes billions of years for the light to reach us. So if we're seeing those planets now, it's billions of years older there. No, it isn't. They've got that all wrong, because if you get out of your body as a being you really are and look at that energy in the universe, there's no limit to the speed of light except the ones we put on it through our own ignorance. If it goes beyond that speed and goes into infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma, and goes into all these things you don't even know about, Akash energy is the energy of creation itself. It has no limits like that. It's not nuclear. So I want to get this across to people because it is a key to being able to embrace beings from other worlds who can help us. And it's required. We can't run around with nuclear bombs and nonsense and radiation and think we're going to go into the future and survive out in space. You can't take that kind of destructive stuff with you out there. They won't tolerate it. I wouldn't. Would you? They aren't interested in running governments on this planet. They're interested in governments being enlightened so they can come out and join such an organization. That's what their interest is. Okay. If you have any questions, Perry, maybe insights, you should ask them because we're going to go on a journey.
Yes, can I ask one question? For people on Earth, for an individual, how can they ask an enlightenment plus technology from beings to help them to be awakened, Scott?
The best way I know of people to ask that, so it gets beyond prayer, which is really for most people trying to appease a vengeful God to get what they want. I will worship you, O Lord. Give me this, give me that. That was constructed by tyrant kings controlling priests on earth to keep people trapped from knowing what they're capable of knowing. And if you raise whole cultures that way, people and children grow up believing this. And their belief is what limits what this omnipresent energy will create in their lives, because it's a co-creator with us. It will create and bring into reality this one power. We aren't that power. We're part of it. There's one power that actually brings things into manifestation when we imagine it. But it will bring good or bad. We're supposed to be responsible with what we choose to imagine. Conscious, not just driven by imagining a terrible end of the earth and I want wonderful things for my kids and family. Creates a dichotomy, a split in the consciousness. It's a whole realm being. And now it starts running energy through a positive and negative stream, creating both. And this omnipresent force fills both of them. And now their life is being jumbled with good and bad things happening to them all the time, lifetime after lifetime, because they don't get that they're supposed to be responsible. With
Scott, and you said we should not pray, like to ask for help. What statement or what should we say?
I did not say those words. You did. I didn't say don't pray. I said when people pray,
okay.
They're mostly asking to placate some supreme being. They really don't understand. They don't even know. They've been taught to believe in it from outside, but they don't really know it. They talk about divine spirit, but they don't understand it. Consciously understand what it does. It is a living energy force, the 0 point, the energy of the universe, that we're meant to create responsibly in it. That which will be of a bit uplifting benefit to all life, not just life on Earth. That's tiny. You can't expect to get free and play in the universe trying to have the universe revolve around Earth, because the Earth revolves around the sun and that sun revolves around the sun. And there's trillions of planets out there in galaxies. We can't have them revolve around us. We need to play in that greater field of consciousness. If you look at God and you just say it's hundreds of billions of galaxies, and there's this huge black void that people see as black, that everything floats in. God is that energy that they think is black, because human eyes can only detect a small frequency, so it appears black to them. But when you get above the body and look at it, it's a white golden light everywhere in the void of space. And it is living energy. More advanced races have learned how to work with that. If you want to travel between parallel dimensions in the physical universe through interdimensional doorways, you have to know how to work with that energy. It has to be designed into your craft to work with that energy. And that's not nuclear. It's not radioactive. And that's important for people to understand that it isn't. In the CERN Super Collider in France, in Switzerland, it's called the Large Hadron Collider, which is, I think, 5 miles. I don't know how big it is. It's a huge circle, and they throw these superconductor magnets drive light or particles at near the speed of light, and they crash them into each other. Pretty stupid. I mean, it's not stupid. I don't want to be that way. But they learn from that they can see energy when that happens behind molecular energy. They know it's behind everything now, but they don't understand it. So they call it the God particle. Rightly named, I think. Kudos to them, because they're on the right track. I'm not pretending to be a quantum physicist. I didn't get trained in any university on this planet, but I know physics and science and things beyond what people on Earth understand, because I work with beings who are those kinds of scientists, not from here, who actually can work this energy properly. Earth people have the capability to do it, but we're going to take millions of years if we want to develop craft that can go across the stars or the galaxies, unless it's provided for us at no charge. We're going to be at this a long time. And Earth, the way it is, would not survive long enough to get there. They know that from outside this planet too.
Scott, maybe I just think of it now. Maybe the best way to ask for the beings to help us by going through your exercise behind your book, to get help, right?
I'm not being elusive or evasive about answering your question. But of course, when someone answers a question, they tell the whole planet the absolute truth. They're going to ask 10,000 more questions because they're in doubt and fear. So it won't matter what I say. They're still going to be seeking answers to more questions, and they won't know anything for themselves. So my work and the techniques in the back of the Savior's Agenda book work with the first sound behind all, the energy of the universe. So living energy. The first half of the word human is hu. It's hidden in the culture, and that culture did not originate on Earth. The hue and how it works through the pineal gland of a human form, or other races that aren't human, who have their own way of working with it, it creates an attunement, an alignment, a telepathic link. It goes beyond the psychic energies, which work with the positive, negative energies in the lower planes of time and space only. They do not go across the void into the upper realities. You can't take any negative, positive nature there. It doesn't cross that void. So if people want to go across the void and remember who they are and where they came from, they have to go through the hue, the first sound, the toroidal energy, and connect with it. The spherical being that runs a body is telepathically linked to it at all times, meaning it's a direct energy link made of the same energy between me and another being, me and the source behind all life, all the way through the dimensions, all the way through beyond the void, up into the upper realities to a source ocean of sound and light, where it emanates from. Because it does. It emanates from there. We all come from there. I'm not talking about physical human bodies now. That which runs bodies, either consciously doing it or completely unconscious. The beings running the bodies is still the same, whether they're completely unaware of it now or not. So what we want to do, what all beings really want, is to know who they are as a being that isn't a physical body that can perish, how to remain consciously aware of it at all times, and how to create with the source behind all life properly. This is what all beings are looking to achieve. Fear keeps people running around in circles, like you have your shoe nailed to a floor and you're running around trying to go out to paradise, but here you are running around in a circle. Thoughts and emotions and negative and positive and fear of the future and the present keeps people doing this, because this omnipresent energy will keep creating it with them as long as they're doing it. People on other worlds that have stopped that nonsense don't create what they're imagining. Kids aren't raised that way. They don't think that way growing up, so they're free of it. They don't have subconscious minds through which they can be perverted and misdirected. Those are programs only. Programs are erasable under the right conditions. This is not new technology, it's ancient. It's just not known on Earth yet. I would have to say that Earth is destined to pass through an energy coming through this universe that will change it. But it is a natural, practical process whereby all the people on Earth are going to go through some tremendous changes they are not going to see coming for the better, or they're not going to survive. And if this world were destroyed, the surface of it at any rate, the beings would not die. They would take their terror and their fear and their sudden death out with them and go attract to themselves other worlds and other places and people like them. And they wouldn't be any further evolved than they were when they died, when their bodies died. And then they'll seek to incarnate unconsciously again because it's like a bad habit, really. So we want to have people on Earth become aware that such beings out there among the stars and other dimensions actually exist. And they need to know about it. So I would say that full disclosure of the extraterrestrial issue and how deep it really goes, this rabbit hole, is inevitable for this planet and its people. There are leaders and people in classified areas and governments now that are beginning to realize they've been making decisions based on fear and that those are incorrect decisions. Somehow, they need to get the assistance from fellow beings when they're out of their bodies at night, every night, that can help them step back from seeing things with any fearful subconscious drive and make decisions from there. And then this world can be straightened out. It can be straightened out so that all this other stuff can come here. It was offered long ago to certain leaders on this world and turned down several times out of fear. Understandable, I guess, 65 years ago after World War II that people would react this way. And people are still making decisions based on fear today. But they're more aware, more potentially capable of making this leap than they were before. So let's go on a journey, unless you have another question.
No.
Well, you asked me a question about how do people do this? How do they get into this? Well, I'm going to demonstrate directly how more advanced beings do get out of their bodies consciously and how they know this stuff. Consider that what I'm sharing with you is the way people live on whole world systems out there. Governments too. And it will help people understand the great potential destiny they have in creation from where we are right now on this planet. Knowing that opens the doorways for all people to be able to embrace it, to co-create with respect such beings, fellow humans even from other worlds, more advanced than us, that live 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 years in a single body because they've mastered genetic science. They don't have disease. It's old science. Old. If we want to have the advantage of that, then we have to be able to play by the rules hundreds of millions of worlds have constructed for the benevolent good of all life. We have to, or we're going to be barred from playing in that field. We're going to be stuck to rocket ships trying to figure out anti-gravity to have it go beyond the speed of light is a telepathic function of being, not the mechanics of the ship. So there's a lot to this. I work with the first half of the word human because the human languages, English and others, did not originate on Earth. They did not originate on this planet, Language did not evolve on this planet from Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon extinct humanoid species. That we did not come from them. There is no missing bone anybody will ever find that will prove we had any direct contact, real direct association genetically with those two humanoid species. They were brought from other worlds just like us. Human beings, the word hue, did not evolve in the Milky Way galaxy. It didn't evolve in the lower worlds of time and space. It is a way that beings, like a failsafe, can connect, begin to remember, and be drawn back to the source from whence they once came, far above the void known to certain esoteric groups on Earth. And then they can play in body forms or run them on different planes and be free of the unconscious illusion that they have ever been a body, because they haven't. Bodies come and go. They're limited. They're machines that the real being is meant to run. A brain and body on Earth, grown up, sitting in a chair, would drool and fall over and perish or cease to be if a being stopped running it. And that being is not part of the brain or body. So when I go into the hue, the first thing we do is work with a series of tones to get your physical body to go to sleep listening to my voice. This is something you co-create. I don't force it on anyone. I don't invade your privacy or read your minds. This is a link between pure being to pure being and to beings out there that are very advanced. Enlightened in the sense of enlightenment and in the sense of technology. We have to become aware of this omnipresent living force between all things if we expect to advance very far in how we play in the multiverse, how we play between planets and galaxies, and who we meet and how we work with them. I'll begin these tones, and then it'll help your physical body go to sleep that you put it in every night anyway, but it also works with helping your astral body, causal, mental, and etheric bodies go to sleep at the same moment. And these are forms you're running as a single spherical being, a single soul, on these different dimensional realities. The purpose for all of that, ultimately, is to become a conscious, trustworthy co-creator with the source. And that means utilizing the imagination, the ability to look into the multiverse and see and know things through this omnipresent first sound, the 0 point, energy of the universe, toroidal. It is the one power that can change a world. The beings on that world and beings from other worlds have to be involved co-creatively to get that done. And then, as beings, we'll go above and outside the atmosphere of planet Earth because it is just jam-packed full of negative imagined and emotions and negative frequencies like holograms, frequencies that everything that has ever been done to any human being since the history of the planet began is still recorded and running around in frequencies within the atmosphere of that planet, which is sealed around the planet. And all those frequencies, perverted as they are bouncing off the ionosphere like a radio wave. So until that atmosphere is cleaned of all that junk, we need to operate out of body, above and beyond the atmosphere of Earth, out in the void, out in the one energy, the energy of the universe. That energy between planets and moons and suns and stars is not nuclear or atomic in nature. It is not made of electrons and protons and neutrons like atoms, like DNA, or material creations. I'll begin those tones now. You. You. If you can visualize or imagine, just like daydreaming, everybody knows how to daydream. Imagine being somewhere else when they're sitting in a chair looking out a window. Their eyes can be open or closed. And if your eyes are closed, you know that no light is coming into your brain from the outside world. It's turned off, literally turned off. But you still imagine something, someone you love, being in the mountains, being on another planet, being out of body, being at the beach. This is the creative imagination. It is not made up or created within the brain. The billions of brain cells and electroneuron systems there do not create imagination. There's no mechanism in the brain from one set of brain cells to another that can project like a camera a motion picture of what you're imagining on a screen for you to watch it. It's important that I make this clear because in the consciousness of the hue we've just gone through, it opens the doorway and connects into the one energy behind and supporting all creation. It is pure. There's no negative nature in it whatsoever. And it is the one power, the one all-knowing energy that relies on us as individual drops of it to return one day and provide new insights and ways to run creation better than it is now. That is the individual destiny of each Atma, what people on earth call soul, that is spherical in nature, that's running bodies. For the most part, people are doing that unconsciously on earth today. When you daydream, you can imagine being above your body, as simple as just imagining it. When you're seeing yourself hovering above your body near the ceiling as a spherical energy with a white core, you You can look in any direction and see through your house, right through the walls, out into the countryside, up into the stars in space, right from where you are. And you can look down on that body sitting there in a chair or lying down with the eyes closed, and you realize that body is going into or is in the trance state we call sleep, the same way you put it every night when you go to bed. The difference is that this telepathic function of the you provides an opportunity for you to remain conscious and go on this journey and imagine it with me, co-create it, while your body remains safely protected and asleep. No one home. The Atma you has a type of an energy, a white golden light beam, connected to the pineal gland in the brain, the center of the brain, that runs the body in automatic, no matter how far out in space or in other dimensions you may be. And it will run this in automatic. You do it every night anyway. But on Earth, the way you've been brought up, you have no training, no attention, no awareness to put your imagination or your energy into being aware that you can leave the body consciously while it goes to sleep, go out and experience wonderful, enlightening events and people, and bring back that awareness to the body. This is not trained in people on Earth for most part. So they don't exercise higher faculties they have. They're just dormant, left off. And you're by the ceiling. You can look through the walls of your house. You can look down on the body. You can see your neighborhood. You can be at 10,000 feet in the atmosphere instantly. And looking around you, you can see the sky around you, the city below you. And even if it's day or night, you can see the stars in space beyond the atmosphere of Earth, as if you were a telephoto, telescopic lens. When you're in space, in the atmosphere, you can begin to be aware that there are several beings, masculine and feminine, spherical beings. They have gender in this way, but not sexual. Feminine and masculine natures by choice. And those beings are kind of like guides. They have bodies on ships, some stationed in our solar system today, and they can put a body back to sleep on a couch while other people run the craft, and they can leave that body and come and help beings like us become aware of what we were made to forget. They help by shutting off subconscious fear and drives temporarily while we go on these journeys. So you don't bring any negative nature with you. When you recover the ability to hear the first sound behind creation, the first word, which is not a written word at all, then you be able to hear and see it as clearly and more clearly by far than you can see anything out of your physical eyes and ears in a body on Earth. And then when you look at this black void of space you see in time-lapse photography from the Hubble telescope or radio telescopes or astronomical equipment or satellites or and you can see space looks to be like a big black void with galaxies floating in it. When you're above the planet Earth, in space, just like higher than the space shuttle ever flew, you just imagine it. And then you realize you're not alone. There's this couple that are protecting you, keeping you from bringing negative fear of the future with you, keeping it turned off with the sleeping body for now, until you master it. And then you realize you're a group of beings in a circle, surrounding some fellow friends, guides from other worlds, very advanced beings, kind, loving beings. They are here to help you remember who and what you are when you're outside of the negative influence of what's contained in the atmosphere of planet Earth. You have a right to do this. You do it every night. Some people stay earthbound. Some people go to another parallel dimension to experience a world like Earth, and they bring it back without realizing they actually were somewhere else while the body was asleep. And those somewhere else's are places that we're made to bring back awareness of the multiverse back to the physical body, to enlighten it, because it didn't get any of this enlightenment growing up on Earth. There's nothing in that brain recorded from your schooling and where you live that taught you anything about any of this. So why should you be aware of it? Why should you feel comfortable leaving your body? You have to do it when the body ceases to work anyway. So it makes sense that it would be greatly beneficial to know how to do this long before that body ceases to function. Be in space, further than the space shuttle. You are a luminous spherical entity. There are others of us on this journey, Perry and myself, master teachers I work with from other worlds and other realities, beings from the Galactic Alliance itself, a great organization of world systems located near the galactic core of our Milky Way galaxy. It is referred to out there as the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. Free because the beings there work collectively in harmony for the greater good of all life. There are tyrant races, few, and they are policed, kept in check. Some of the technically advanced and well-trained beings from the Galactic Alliance know how to leave their bodies and can help people be free of negative subconscious fear. Those are programs. If you learn how to unplug the computer that goes to negative things, you begin to set yourself free. When that negativity is turned off, the higher faculties turn on. In space, when you look at what you think is a black void, because that's what you were shown on Earth, you are not in the physical body. You are looking at it with far better capability and perspective than you can see through physical eyes. You can see that that blackness is actually a white golden light in between all things that float in it, the earth, the moon, the sun, the stars, the galaxies, the dimensions, and it's everywhere. And when you look in the core of our beings across from each other in a circle, floating in space, you realize that that white core at the center of the sphere of your being is the same energy, and it's connected to it. There is a link between it and us, a permanent, continuous stream of energy. It is not atomic or nuclear in nature. There are no electrons or protons or atoms in that energy. It is the energy behind such things. A friend of mine, Ambassador Trellian of the Sayres race, is standing, a physical form appearing beside the spherical form that he is, like us, hovering above it. He's showing you a body about 18 feet tall, human, handsome like a Greek god, slightly wavy, long blonde hair, big blue eyes, slightly pointed ears, and a simple Greek-like gown, holding his two thumbs up with a white golden energy around them. He's basically doing a kind of a holding the space. And the energy around his thumbs is brighter than the white energy that surrounds us. It comes from a higher reality. And it's helping to keep all of us on this journey from dwelling in the negative by habit. Shuts those things off. The hue shuts them off temporarily anyway. And then you begin to see this body that looks physical. He's showing you what it used to be over 1 billion years ago when their entire race immortalized this form, not by making it live forever, They dematerialized it and stored the DNA structure in one of the teardrops in the layers that surround the white core of their being. The energy that surrounds us, the omnipresent toroidal 0 point or hue energy, the first sound, he can draw that DNA pattern out and have that energy fill it and manifest a physical form. One that he's showing you in space is made of energy. And if you look out in front of the sphere you are now, you'll see a physical form that looks just like you, about 36 years old, flawless, perfectly healthy, perfectly formed. And you're showing who you are to him. This is a function and a capability of being, not bodies or brains. He's showing you how their entire race evolved to a point where they don't have the burden of carrying around a physical body 24/7 like we do. If he had a mission to go on a particular planet and needed to walk around as an 18-foot tall human being, he could manifest it and people could actually touch it. Not that he would ever do that. It would overwhelm people, be way outside their realm of experience, and wouldn't be beneficial. But he can do it for certain races in certain situations who can appreciate and respect it for their own benefit. We are on a journey now outside of the atmosphere of planet Earth, hovering in space. No need to, you don't feel heat or cold, you don't feel radiation from the sun, and you're actually lighting up the space we're hovering in. When you look down, you can see the Earth with polar ice caps and the barren moon pockmarked with meteor craters. It has no atmosphere to speak of and does not turn on its axis as it circles our planet. This world you're familiar with is only in one parallel dimension of the physical universe out of 144. It's big. You cross over a barrier into what people call the astral plane, where all matter is moved through emotion, is moved around. There are 144 more there, bigger. The more advanced races among the stars can circumnavigate not just space as you see it through a Hubble telescope, but 144 levels of it. It's just big. To play in the next major division or universe up from the physical universe, you have to go beyond the physical ships and bodies of the physical realities, and you as the Atma can step into and experience the 144 levels that are there, and so forth up through the higher realities. This is done through seeing and hearing the sound of eternity, which has a vibrant sound. The sound running through the physical universe sounds like rumbling thunder under your feet. But it's not a scary thunder like you'd have on Earth. It's a constant sound. And it is the hue operating in the lowest of realities. The sound becomes higher in nature and quality and its alluring sweetness of character the further up the planes it goes. If we wish to travel from where we are in space above Earth to another world, we can do this instantly. Because the Atma, what we really are, and this energy we move through and live and have our being in, this hue, this toroidal energy, is connected to all things. And it is not limited by the speed of light as people understand it on Earth or gravity. Physical vehicles that travel between the stars are. More advanced craft can travel between the Milky Way and other galaxies. Such races exist out there. One day, Earth people may meet them. But the first stage of meeting people from other worlds should be with those of the Galactic Alliance that have human forms that live several thousand years at least. to share their technology and their science, genetic science, would be a great boon to people on Earth. If you look around you now and you see Trillian, you're going to see some other beings begin to appear here that were invited. A couple that is appearing standing about 10 feet tall, the man a little taller, are showing you a beautiful human couple from another world system in the Milky Way. And the spherical atma they are, the atma, the soul they are, is hovering above these forms they're showing you. Pure energy forms, duplicates of what they have on their world, but this is pure energy. They appear to be breathing, but they're not breathing oxygen or atmosphere. Those forms are taking in the radiant white golden light around us and passing it through their system and breathing it back out. It has a sound, like a deep, pleasant, uplifting, rumbling sound. I can't explain it better than that, except that it's not threatening. Powerful, but not threatening. And they appear to be 10 feet tall, and they have silver, looks like silver polished metal hair, but it's, you know, it's soft. And they have violet oval eyes. Ivory moonstone colored smooth skin, longer necks, longer torsos, longer legs, toes, and fingers than we have. But beautifully handsome, beautifully beautiful is the woman and the man that's showing you themselves. And they are from a race called the Xiantranamus, and they're from a Xiantranomon 1, which is located on the other side of our Milky Way galaxy. It is a big world, and they're showing you, they're waving their hands. You're going to see a world form in space between Trillian, standing in the center of this circle of beings, us who surround him. And you can see a world 4 times bigger than Earth. It has little land masses all over it, little oceans all over it, no polar ice caps, and 3 moons the size of Earth with no polar ice caps. And there are domed cities located on all of them. These 3 moons circle at different distances from this planet. And then they're showing you how their planetary system revolves in an orbit around their trinary sun system. That means the planets in that system revolve around a group of stars. One is a blue-white giant, one further out the size of our sun, and one red dwarf further out circle this bigger sun, and the planets circle all 3. These are master genetic scientists, human or humanoid. They come originally from another galaxy and began populating the Milky Way a long time ago. The bodies they're showing you actually exist on their home world, the big one you see projected in space, 4 times bigger than Earth. And they live in an area along a violet colored water stream winding like a snake through a valley. And in the distance, a huge dome covering 3 pyramids shaped, 4-sided, golden-sided, quartz-capped pyramids in a huge dome city placed between 2 flat mesas like you'd find in Sedona, Arizona in the United States. And then you find yourself looking down at your bare feet, and you realize this body form is walking along this lavender colored sand next to this violet colored river of water. There's minerals in it. And in the distance, you see a couple approaching you. And you realize you are an atma, spherical, hovering above this physical body form. And these 2 beings walk up to us and smile and greet us with their right hand over their heart. They're telepathic. They've mastered genetic science. The bodies they're showing you on this planet are over 3.5 million years old, unaged. That's one form of immortalization. Different from the Say-Rays. The Say-Rays are a much older race. And yet genomes from the Say rays exist in this couple and in their race, just like they do in all of us on Earth. The more masterful genetic scientists are the Say rays. Remember, these are beings who create body forms and evolve them so that the Atma, you, can run higher faculties of creation through them, but not for the intent of being trapped into falsely believing you're a physical body. That is not the intent or the purpose of the Say rays. They did not do that. This couple is talking with all of you telepathically, greeting you to their home world, Ziantarnaman 1. And then they explain to you that they are responsible for overseeing, which is why they've immortalized their bodies. It's not selfish. They're not trapped in bodies. You can see the spherical beings hovering above them that they really are. And they are overseeing world systems that cover a little more than half of our entire Milky Way galaxy. People on Earth don't even know they exist yet. We're not exactly going to go project our little stuff on Earth on them and start planting our flags from Earth in their territory. That is never going to happen, ever. If we want world systems provided for us with moons that are not yet inhabited or that we could advance, they could be provided to us, but it would be done by grace, by their free will. We cannot take them by force. They're far too advanced for us to attempt that. They are kind. They would simply prevent us from hurting ourselves if we attempted it. Then you find yourself in space, hovering around Turellian. There's Earth. Now watch what happens. Earth is sitting there with its polar ice caps. And you can see all the stars, billions of them, below you, above you, to the side, up and top. And this white golden energy filling the space between them. And yet you can see all the stars floating in it, in this other ether, this other energy. And then you look at the Earth and you realize that the vibration is moving upward. It's something Turellian and I and some others are doing. It's easy. And you suddenly realize you're looking at Earth and it has no polar ice caps. We have just moved up to the third higher parallel dimension, molecular dimension, parallel molecular time rate of the third parallel dimension of the physical universe. We'll look at Earth as being in number 1, then number 2, which is a different reality, and then this one. And in this reality, Earth in the same place has no polar ice caps. The moon is covered with an oxygen atmosphere and clouds and little rivers and little lakes. No polar ice caps. It's turning on its axis as it revolves around the Earth. And in the distance, the same sun. On the planet, you see a large continent from the left to the right hemisphere that extends almost down to about a third of the way above the southern pole and extends almost to about a third of the way above the upper pole, and then continues and ends in a curved area around each hemisphere of the planet. You can see through Earth, and there's another continent 2/3 its size centered over the equator, and you can see the word Lemuria appear in golden letters, Lemuria, over the continent, and then it comes into space and vanishes. You can see Atla, or Atlantis, as it's known in later Earth history, colony of Lemuria, come into space and vanish. This is Lemurian Atlantis, populated by advanced spiritual master teachers and advanced spacefaring races. It is a protected environment, and there is life on that planet and that moon, and they're there. They've created over a long period of time a prototype. It is a prototype of what Earth and the barren moon we have now will look like when the time comes. It's easier for beings to superimpose a higher parallel dimension reality over a lower one when the time is right. Down on that continent, down near the southern pole, there's a half moon bay shaped, pointing upward, luminous emerald green beach. You can see glowing all the way from space. And when you look at it, you look down and realize that your toes, bare feet, are wriggling in emerald green sand glowing a foot above a beach that is curved like a half moon. And in the back of that curved area is a brown moss covered path that goes straight back into a jungle and up into a higher plateau. And there's a single snow covered mountain on the right. And down on the left in the lower plateau, a dome city covering three four-sided quartz-capped pyramids like you saw on the Xantranamon 1 planet. People work and do exploration of an enlightening and technological nature there. And you're looking at this green beach and you realize this green energy is moving up your legs. It's soothing and cooling, moves up your torso, up to the top of your smiling face and up into the white core of the being that you are hovering above this energy form that has its feet in the sand. The air is crystal and pure, the blue-green water luminous, and out in the water, standing up to his knees, is this 18-foot-tall Sayre's ambassador, Turellian. Two thumbs up, still holding this golden white energy around his hands, smiling. And you realize there are a number of other beings on this journey with us, having a similar experience with their feet in this sand, lining this curve of this half-moon bay-shaped beach. I guess it would go, how do I do it? Like this, yeah. So that it's back here, back in the back. You see that moss-covered path. You look at the snow-covered mountain. It's on a tropical landmass, but there's this snow-covered mountain back there, a couple of miles away, and there's a huge waterfall roaring out of a cavern opening 2/3 of the way towards the summit, falling thousands of feet down a sheer cliff face to disappear into a blue-green forest that surrounds the back side of this clear domed city. You suddenly look down and realize your feet are walking on a white marble pathway, many of them that curve through a grassland countryside. And there are little ivory-colored dome dwellings dotting the countryside in a blue-green luminous lake. And in the distance in the background to the left, three of these pyramids, their devices. And in the background, semicircular back half of this city is a small mountain range with little waterfalls cascading down mountainsides, put there for the aesthetic pleasure of the beings who work here. And you can see a master approaching, a master teacher, walking up the path towards all of us who are standing on the path. Turellian standing behind us with his two thumbs up, smiling. He's like a guide, a protector. And you see a being who's about 6 feet tall with long, shiny, jet black hair, luminous emerald green eyes, slightly pale blue skin, human, dressed very nicely in elegant silk type clothing and slip-on type shoes. And he raises his right hand and he opens his fingers. You can see little webs between them. He lifts his head and you can see 3 little slits, otherwise you wouldn't know they're there. This human race also has Sayre's DNA in them in galactic history, going back millions of years. And they evolved on a water-covered world on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy in the 3rd parallel dimension, same place where this place is, called Oceania, and it's mostly water covered with a few little islands in the equator, and there are domed cities on those islands. And he's waving his hand, and you can see their world form in the atmosphere inside this dome where we're standing. Your body looks human there, but it's perfectly healthy, flawless at about 36. You, the being, the atmospherical you, are hovering above it. And he's showing you what their planet looks like. When you look down at one of the islands centered over the equator, kind of crimson, pinkish type of lavender clouds, 3 moons out there, and a trinary sun system that this world also revolves around. And you can see down on that island, we come down in the atmosphere and you're hovering above a big dome city. It looks just like this one. And there are a number of them throughout the jungle clearings on this island. There are tubes exiting from the dome that go down into the ocean, to the bottom of the Oceanian Ocean. Oceanian Ocean. You can see a transport vehicle dart down one of them from the dome city. It looks like a quartz crystal, double terminated, with the each end glowing from blue to green to red every few seconds. Blue to green to green, blue to green to red. It's in a luminous blue tube and it darts down inside this vacuum tube, and we follow it down the bottom of this ocean. And when you realize as we get down thousands of feet down in this ocean, there are dome cities along the bottom of their ocean connected by these tubes, these transport tubes, with pyramids and mountain ranges and all kinds of stuff in them. And then you're looking at Opelum showing you this image, and you find that you were just there. And now you're back on the path in this one dome. Below this, you look up through the dome, you can see this large snow-covered mountain and the waterfall cascading out of a cavern opening. And then the world he's showing you disappears, because where he is on Earth here in a higher parallel dimension is not Oceania. That's on the other side of the galaxy. His name is Opelum. And he's showing you a body form, physical, that's more than 500,000 years old, unaged. These are great genetic scientists. They are only benevolent, kind. They don't get in battles or go to war. They completely shield themselves from being involved with such things. They're showing you where they work. Now you can see other beings appear on these little white roadways from different world systems, men and women, different heights, different body colors, and Galactic Alliance uniforms on them. They have a little, I think it's the upper right chest area, a little silver pyramid, golden pyramid over a silver galaxy with 3 little blue stars in triangular formation set above the apex of the pyramid. Now that's a symbol for the Galactic Alliance. They have single slip-on uniforms, elegant, pale blue. Different ranks have different colors. They're very fine pastel shades. And these are highly trained technicians, and they work together here with master teachers to develop and implement ways to transform Earth without allowing the people to destroy themselves. This is their primary function. It's not the only one. And then we find ourselves out in space above Earth, around Turelian and the Xiantranamus couple and Master Ramu. He's a maroon colored robe, about 36, short black cropped beard and curly hair, and carrying a crystal staff with tipped on the top with looks like an Egyptian ankh with a vertical oval hole in the center of a vertical circle with a cross on top, and it's a device. Carries it with him always. These are master teachers that predominantly work throughout the universe. They aren't just stationed on Earth by any means. And they are people who can help all of you regain what you were made to forget if you ask it of them, any of them. In space, you're going to see 2 couples appear standing nearby me. Perry's off to the left, and they're a man and a woman, and they're about 5 to 6 feet tall, roughly. They're wearing Galactic Alliance uniforms, and one is Shantial, Tonaltial, Dantiam, and Lamtiam, hyphenated names. And they are technicians who work with removing or helping people neutralize negative subconscious influences. They are here simply to make themselves available if you ask. They can help you when you're out of your body at night, get greater experience, and download it into that body and brain that doesn't have it. You find yourself now hovering in the atmosphere high above where you live on Earth. There is a male and female human being presenting a body form to you with a spherical being hovering behind it. These are like friends, helpful guides, protectors. And so they can be with you or go with you on your next journey if you wish, but they will never force their will upon you. You find yourself hovering near the ceiling where you live, looking kindly down on that body that's asleep. And what we're doing now is transferring down into the pineal gland of that body and radiating it out in a circle, a widening circle throughout your body and out through your house and out into the countryside, a flow of this golden white energy coming from the white core of your being connected to the omnipresent field of energy we were just in outside in space. And we're downloading this adventure, this journey into that brain and body, into that form so that it has a higher enlightening awareness and can accept and embrace such experiences without fear. Then you see that energy continue until it stops about 2 miles wide around you. Pretty big aura. And then it continues out into the planet Earth, connects to 3 pyramids that are stationed now on Earth, 2 at the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans. These are massive 4-sided, golden-sided quartz cap pyramids. They have a device inside. And there's one hidden inside a mountain hollowed out in the Himalaya. And it connects with fountains inside each one, white alabaster, has a statue of a being in each one, bronze skin, bald head, about 36, with 2 gold bracelets on each of his upper arms, bare feet, standing in the middle of this fountain with his open palms down by his sides. And this white golden energy is flowing through the palms, filling the fountain bowl, dropping through the sides of the pyramid, pulsing out in donut-shaped waves throughout the pyramid sides. And it is connecting to a larger pyramid stationed between 2 stationary asteroids in the asteroid belt that circles in the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter in our solar system. And then they continue out to connect with even larger ones stationed now between stars. And the energy then is projected upward through the other dimensions. There are certain people in the classified arena Earth that know these are there. They can't do anything with them. No weapons work on them. Nothing they do can affect them. And yet, when they've tried this, they've never been retaliated against. No one ever attacked them back. And that is giving them pause to wonder and drop their fear more because it's not a threat. They don't know what it is. It's not threatening anybody. They do know that they feel good when they're around them. And you find yourself looking down on that body, remembering this experience, and then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you, Scott, for the journey. It's good as always.
You're welcome, Perry. I'm trying to endeavor for a while to keep these journeys in the physical universe, out in space, visit some other planets that very evolved beings run in the physical universe. They're very evolved spiritually, very enlightened, have similar genes in the bodies they run that we got from the Ceres, just like us. So there's a commonality of kindness that can be embraced with these beings as people begin to experience more about them. They didn't get taught any of this growing up, so they got to get it from somewhere. I would recommend that they go on this journey a second time. Once it's recorded and put on your YouTube channel, Awaken Hidden Truth, they will get more out of it the second time around. I recommend they find a quiet place where they won't be disturbed by anybody, get a cup of tea, get contemplative, meditative, go into the hue like I was doing for 5 or 10 minutes till they feel a calm, a serenity of being. And then go on the journey and start playing the recording and go on the trip a second time. So the website, I think I'll just put one in it, just the paralleltime.com website. Then people can go to that and go to the website and learn more about this stuff and watch videos. It's all free. There's links to get both these books, the Ceres Agenda. This is original artwork was created. This is a mile-long cylindrical shaped ship stationed in the ice rings that form the rings around the planet Saturn. These are galactic scouts. They're about 30 feet across. three semi-spheric pods underneath that are entering through the middle section of this ship. This is a scene from this book. This original artwork was commissioned with my supervision very carefully. This is a being named Mark Sandfield who's in a solo camping trip in the High Sierra Mountains in California when he's attacked by these three guys back here with beam weapons. They're trying to kill him. They blow out a section of a tree, and this ship is manned by a human pilot from another world, saves his life. And he begins his journey to remembering how he never originated on this planet. In the back of this book is a series of techniques involving the hue and how to work with this. That is for the prologue and all 29 chapters. So when there's a certain subject area revealed of hidden truth in one chapter, and you start having dreams at night, you start having insights, you can go and use the technique for that chapter, work with it for a period of nights, and start to recover some of that for yourself. This is more about extraterrestrial and what's changing amongst them out in the universe right now. The Emerald Doorway book, original artwork here, these are actual actors that portrayed in costume these characters to make them very realistic. There's a little creature named Etta. You'll find out who he is. He's silica-based. He's from another world. He's very courageous. Let's see if I can find a quick picture of him because I think it's important anyway. He's a great friend. The guy would die for you courageously. If he had to give up his life to save yours, he has more manifestation of the highest qualities of a human being that humans on Earth don't know how to manifest yet. You can see him hovering on his tail, a silica-based creature. They're on the planet Oceania where Pelham is, developed in huge volcanic hollowed-out chambers at the bottom of their oceans. And they can defy gravity and fly through the air. He has big bulbous blue eyes. Looks like he's smiling about something when his mouth is closed. He can walk on all fours or fly through the air. He's telepathic, he has a photographic memory, and he's also a master teacher, but he is not human. So here on this book, this scene took place 100,000 years ago after the poles flipped the last time, destroyed Lemuria, most of Atlantis except for a volcanic island. As new continental land masses rose up, this virtually happened overnight. That became the popular Atlantis seafaring power that was destroyed 35,000 years ago, or 75,000 years after this event. So we're going back further. This is an interdimensional doorway to the fifth reality above the void. This is a being from the source behind all life and what it looks like. Very beautiful, different concentric layers of teardrop shapes. These are higher faculties. It goes through the spectrum of light. This being is a master teacher. That's Ramu. He was in this journey with his staff. Kalem, anti-gravitic disk. They're hovering from outside this stationary ship, his ship. And this master is introducing this ancient one, prime creator, to these people. This is what exists at the center of creation in what's called the ocean of sound and light. Many planes above here, above the void. What these beings don't realize at this point in the story is that one of these is hovering above each of their heads, which is who they really are. So they're gaining this experience. This is the land that started to appear after the ones were destroyed, became the continents we live on today. And this is a bad guy who wants to steal technology, like this crystal, to dominate Earth. And this is a human who became quite power mad. This book is more about extraterrestrial involvement. These are all extraterrestrials in Earth's ancient past. So this is more about how the Galactic Alliance and other beings were involved with Earth that long ago. And that's just the last 100,000 years. And then there are two sequel books written. This is the first one published. So as these become more people become aware of these on Earth, then I will publish the other two books, complete this story, because it has to do with the future of Earth as well. So I want to leave you with that, Perry. Any other questions you might want to?
No, but I would like to say that your book, The Emerald Doorway, if people want to find out how the project happened and how it was like at that moment, cannot find anywhere else, only in your book, Scott, for the pursuit
Yeah,
at
I guess
that time.
I should say then, because you said that, that what is
Mm,
written in these books only comes from my direct experience. I'm not smarter than anybody else. I don't have some brilliant genius that allows me to show you what's in these books. I had to actually be there and see it. This is out in the multiverse. This has to do with beings from other worlds and other dimensions. I couldn't make this up in my mind. I didn't learn any of this growing up on this earth any more than you did. What people don't realize when they're authors that write about other worlds and things, they don't realize that they're going into a kind of a trance state. The atma that's hovering over the body is actually reviewing either the past or something else taking place in the multiverse, other dimensions, and they're writing about it like scribes. Some people are very good about writing about what they see. Some people just see it and never write about it. But people don't make this kind of stuff up in their little brain. There's nobody that grew up on this planet, George Lucas or Peter Jackson or any of these people, that ever were trained to imagine anything like that in their schooling and their training. So where did they get it?
mm.
Think about that for a moment. And it'll help people understand more about how the creative imagination plugs into the universe to see and experience things. Okay, then I want to wish all of you and your listening audience the greatest good dreams, even in these tumultuous times on Earth. Earth is going through things now no one saw coming. And it's being done primarily created by people's misdirection, especially when they tested nuclear bombs in our own atmosphere. We're paying the repercussions for that, mutated viruses and all that. But it's being done to force people to work together on one common single thing for the first time in this world's history. Got to solve COVID, or it will kill everyone on this planet. It's not going to go away from social distancing. It has to be done another way. There are other events, other things coming our way. It's not about killing people. People die every day anyway on Earth from one thing or another. But it is about getting people to work together. The transformation of consciousness that makes it possible for people to embrace beings from other worlds properly has to come before we can have ships land from all over the galaxy here to be of great benefit to us. It's part of the process. So I will leave everybody with that, with kindness. I want to wish
Thank
them
you,
great
Scott.
goodwill. Okay, we will,
Yes.
okay, sayonara for now.
Sayonara.